Have you ever encountered a hurdle with launching or growing your business? Listen, there are two things that run a business, the back end and your soft skills.
Telling you right now, if these aren't in place, you'll lose clients and you'll lose money. You don't want that? Well, you're in the right place.
Hey, I'm Dana.
Hey, I'm Sarah.
We're your hosts of the Entrepreneur Encounter, and we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes glance into our businesses, give you genuine feedback, tips and tricks, plus occasionally bring on guests that care about supporting you to grow your business organically and nurturing authentic relationships. Are you ready? Hey friends, welcome to the Entrepreneur Encounter podcast. Today we are discussing the unique dynamics of husband and wife business partners, which I feel like is 100% a first for our podcast. So I'm super excited to dive into that topic. And with us, we have two guests, a husband and wife duo. Their names are Robert and Kay Lee Fukui. Together, they created Power Couples by Design, which is an innovative program aimed at fostering both a prosperous business and a flourishing marriage. They have a book out, and I'm going to let them dive into that in just a few minutes. So welcome, Robert and Kay. You want to tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you even started this journey of being a power duo?
Sure. Thanks, Dana, for having us on. And our prayers to Sarah as she's navigating that hurricane issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
But working together was never on my radar, nor was even having a business, not just growing up, but like when I launched my career. And I worked for Coca-Cola in marketing and sales. That was my first job out of college. So got a marketing degree. Actually did an internship with them the summer before I graduated. They offered me a job, so it was awesome. I didn't have to look for a job like a lot of my colleagues were trying to figure something out when they graduated.
A unicorn experience. We love that.
Yeah, and I actually landed at a job in a career that actually fit my major. So, growing up, my dad was a pastor, and he just said, go to school, get a job, stay out of debt. Those were his 3 words of life wisdom advice. So having a business was never on my radar. But when I met Kay Lee, as we were dating, she said, I can see you having a business. And I was like, nah, it sounds too risky. I like my paycheck. I like my bonuses. I like all my benefits, the company card, the whole 9 yards. But when I got in my 40s, I guess it was a midlife crisis. You start thinking about, okay, what do I really want to do for the rest of my career and my life? So that inflection point where if you're going to pivot, and that's a good time because you're not old, you're not close to retirement, and you still got a lot of time to make a change. So I did entertain having a business, and then I just didn't know what it would be. I thought, well, my background's in marketing. Maybe I'll do some consulting with some business, and maybe I'll find a business that I'll want to do. And lo and behold, I just end up really liking consulting, especially with family business. I wasn't consulting in the corporate space. I didn't really want to do that. So I started really targeting small family business. And I really enjoyed that, not just because of how you improve the business, but actually the relationships and the impact that that change made on the business owner, the family, the employees. You get to really know people. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. Left the corporate space about 8 years ago. And then as I started doing more and more consulting, one of the things I noticed early on with these small family business was they're working way too hard. Coming from the corporate space, one of the benefits was not perfect, but we're more efficient. Systems and processes makes the job a little bit easier so you can get more done with less time. And this average business owner doesn't have a business background, so they just learn as they go. So inevitably, there's a lot of inefficiencies that get built up over time. And as the business grows, and the next thing you know, what they're doing is they're working really hard, harder than they need to, and it was affecting home. So one client after another was expressing the same issue with home and marriage and all that stuff. And that's when I looked at Kay Lee and said, hey, I think there's an issue here that nobody's really addressing. There's an elephant in the room. There's a lack of balance. We have to put everything, our time, focus, and energy in the business, and it's robbing time from home with the spouse, the kids, and all that stuff. And I said, I don't see anybody dealing with this thing head on. Let's do that. Because it really wasn't any much additional work for us. It's really about how do you just create some healthy boundaries? How do you communicate and resolve conflict better, especially as husband and wife teams? And so that's how it started, right?
Yeah, he's talking about my childhood because I'm third generation entrepreneur, and my dad worked 6 days a week.
Oh, gosh.
Worked holidays. And so he just wasn't home much. And it was really tough on our family. And when I met him, I thought, oh, I could totally see him being an entrepreneur because I was around that so much. And I knew so many that I just thought most people are, aren't they? He's like, no. And We just wanted people to learn because we kind of have, even though he's a pastor's kid, we had similar upbringings and we didn't want that to happen to us as well. And how many times have we seen small businesses that we really loved fail? So we have a heart for small business. We want them to succeed and for their families to be able to thrive as well.
I love that. So my dad, in full transparency, and I've mentioned this before, still to this day does not understand what I do as an entrepreneur. Just think of me as an admin assistant. That's the easiest way to explain it to you. I just work from home. That is not what I do. I do Pinterest marketing, but he wasn't grasping it. So I was like, layman's term, I make enough money from home that I don't have to get a quote unquote day job. So from a young age, I was raised like you, Robert, where, well, honestly, not even go to school. You just graduate high school, get a job, pay your bills. That was how I was raised. But I didn't like being told what to do. So I was able to get jobs, but I was the worst employee because I didn't like being told what to do. So I launched my own business and it is a learning curve. I like that you mentioned that is many entrepreneurs, especially early stage entrepreneurs, which is who we're talking to today and every day, is like you've never owned a business. Obviously, you've never been a CEO. That's a big learning curve. You have an idea of how you would make this one piece efficient, but that's just one piece. As a business owner, you have to make the entire operation efficient. And that is a gap. I feel like that doesn't get talked to, especially in a power couple situation. We had a guest a few months ago, and we did talk to her husband, but she was a power couple too. And when they launched their business together, they immediately outsourced as opposed to trying to handle everything on their own, which is a rare thing to hear. So I would love your viewpoint on like, what challenges have you faced as a couple and how have you used them as advantages?
Yeah. A lot of times, husband and wives, there's similarities and there's differences, and we come into conflict because of our differences. Like she's more the creative, spontaneous, I'm more the planner. That can clash.
But then as soon as you get married, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so irritating.
Yeah. That's funny when you're dating, those opposites do attract. But then all of a sudden, when you're living with each other, then they start to conflict. And those differences are just different strengths. So you got to learn to accept and appreciate it, not just when you're dating, but even when you're married, to learn and appreciate the planning and the spontaneity, the creativity versus the analytical. And especially in business, when people are starting business, and especially if they're working just by themselves in the business, they're everything. They're every department in the business. So when you look at the functions of a well-running business and all the different departments, operations and marketing and finance and all that, you've got people in those spots, but as a business owner, a lot of times you're all of that. And inevitably, you are doing a lot of things that you're not good at. So that is the stressor in the business because you're so focused. You have to do all these other things. So you talk about outsourcing. That's key. I mean, my background's in marketing, but I don't necessarily need to do everything, or am I good at everything? So we outsource that. That frees up my time to do the things that are more beneficial for the business only I can do. So when working together, we really had to learn how to really appreciate each other's roles and put each other in the right position. When Kay Lee was first asking if she could help in the consulting business, the first thing I said was no, because I didn't think it was going to be good for our marriage. I thought it was going to create conflict because of the differences. But she persisted. And so I kind of slowly gave her some duties. And then one duty I gave her, which was not good, was put her in charge of QuickBooks.
I'm the creative. I want to create and color everything. And you know what? QuickBooks, there's no creativity in there. It's very exact.
Yeah. So if you just kind of hear, she's the creative, I'm the analytical one. Of the two of us that should be doing QuickBooks, it would be me. But I didn't want to do it because it was too tedious. But this is what happens in husband and wife is the supporting spouse, they put them in a role just to fill it because it needs to get done. The owner doesn't want to do it and they're too cheap to hire.
And we just keep triggering each other because he would ask me, honey, did you get in and do the book work? And I'd be no, because I keep putting it off. And then finally I get in there to do it. And then I'm all proud of myself. Oh, I got this done. He's going to be so happy. And then he comes back to me, honey, this needs to be perfect.
Oh,
he's like,
no.
there's no wiggle room in numbers.
Oh, yeah, no.
He's like, I need this to be precise. And then I got upset because I thought, oh my gosh, I really tried and put my heart in this and he's not happy with me. And then I trigger him. And then we're just in this big old vicious cycle that nobody's winning.
Like a hamster wheel of doom.
Yes.
Yeah. So you really got to really know each other's strengths and weaknesses and position each other in roles that take advantage of the strengths. And then what's left, you do start to outsource or you hire, whatever.
It sounds very similar to what I do with clients when I was doing just the business management side of things. Of when someone was like, I don't know what I would outsource. Write down everything you do and then put a star by the things you actually enjoy doing. And then you delegate the rest to someone like myself, or I will help find someone if it's something out of my scope. I don't do bookkeeping either. I have a bookkeeper for that. In addition to that, are there like exercises, I guess, that are things that you have couples do when they're in that stage of learning to set boundaries and maintaining that work-life balance?
Well, we have our couples take the DISC profile at the very beginning when we start working with them. So we know what their communication style is.
And work style.
And work style, yes. So that it really deflates a lot of conflicts because you're better to understand. Oh, you're a D, so that means I need to be really direct with you and get to the point. Not, I like to tell the whole story. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, that's why we're getting lost and things aren't getting done moving forward.
And it shows you the work style too, because D's are more drivers and they're just do it. They kind of shoot first, aim later kind of thing. The C's are the more analytical. So they're going to slow things down because we want to do the research when they're analytical. So the D's and the C's actually complement each other because we're very task oriented. But at the same time, D's want to get things done, but C's are going to figure out how to do it.
So you need each other.
So you do really need each other. So the D's can get frustrated at C because they're kind of slowing things down because they want to move forward. But if you don't know how it's going to work, there can be a train wreck. So you really got to appreciate that balance of, yeah, we want to move forward, but at the same time, we need to figure out how this is going to work.
So you could see them as being lazy, like, oh, they're being lazy. It's taking them forever. But that's just how they process. They're not lazy. They're just wanting to check all the dots and make sure everything's ready to go before they make a decision.
Yeah. So that's an example of how this profile, and there's other stuff, Myers-Briggs, and there's Enneagram and all that stuff. Choose something that you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But those kind of things really help just to know, be self-aware. A lot of people, they don't like these assessments. I don't want to be pigeonholed into something. I said, you're not pigeonholed, but everybody's got to have a go-to in their personality and their work style. You can say you don't want to be pigeonholed, but everybody's got a go-to. So you just need to be aware of those strengths and weaknesses in those areas, and also in your spouse or your colleagues, your contractors, all those relationships. When you know each other's gifts and strengths and also the weak spots, then not only can we communicate better, but we can work better together.
It's great for hiring because if you're like a high D, you don't want all Ds on your team. You want people that have different strengths and pull them all together and utilize that.
Hey there, listeners. Ever feel like you're struggling to connect with customers or lead your team effectively? That's where soft skills come in.
Entrepreneur Encounter isn't just another podcast. We're a community dedicated to helping early stage entrepreneurs like you master the soft skills that make or break a business.
Technical skills are important, but without communication, collaboration, and confidence, your business might never get off the ground to the next level.
In our membership, Dana and I share actionable insights and tips to help you nurture the soft skills you need to thrive.
Give you access to bonus content, workshops, and a network of like-minded entrepreneurs who are all on the same journey.
We'll teach you how to boost your confidence,
become a leader who inspires and motivates your team,
navigate conflict like a pro,
to resolve disagreements without drama and build stronger relationships,
communicate clearly and concisely, get your message across, build trust, and close the deal.
If you're ready to take your business to the next level, join the circle by clicking the link in the show notes. I often find myself saying, like, I need a me for me in my business. But maybe I don't need a me. I have an assistant and she is amazing. And I kind of want to have her take that test just so to see, am I utilizing her in the best streamlined way or not?
Yeah, so you can just go on using Google DISC assessment, and there's a lot of free ones out there.
Okay.
Then you can better understand each other.
That will be in the show notes, you guys. I feel like understanding each other will help you like really balance your roles better, but by finding that balance, because it's a web, it's not really like an A/B. I feel like it's a web that gets pulled depending on what's going on and the behind the scenes or client facing, family life, all of the things. But that would also help like avoid burnout. How have you seen that? Let's do a more positive spin. Like, let's explore how to avoid burnout and maintain that healthy relationship, both inside and outside of work.
Yeah, so let's start with the word balance and define that first. People think it's X amount of time over here, X amount of time over there in the business and family, whatever. And it's not about a quantitative measurement like how much time. It's about the quality of time. Like you can spend 4 hours with your spouse doing errands or 5 minutes looking to each other's eyes and connecting, showing appreciation. How can I serve you best today?
Giving them your full attention.
And giving full attention. So those 5 minutes are better quality than just running errands. It's not about stuff. Those 5 minutes are about you and about us. So that's just a quick example. So when you start talking about burnout, what does quality time mean for your health, both your physical health, mental, emotional, and spiritual health? And how do you make sure you do some of those things on a daily basis, like your daily habits? And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You just need to be very intentional about it, because when you're not intentional about your own physical health and your relationship, your schedule just gets packed with everything else. So if you don't start with what's important for you and your relationship and block those times out, then it's just not going to happen.
Could not agree more with that.
So for me, it's first thing in the morning is very important, because that's when I can get those quality moments in. I have my quiet time, I read, and then Kayla and I pray together, and I take the dog for a walk, I have my shake, that kind of stuff. So I check out a lot of the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual boxes right off the bat. And that still leaves me the rest of the day to do what I need for the business if I was going to work all the way to the evening, which I don't. But just to show that as an example, even just that minimum amount, if I do that daily, I'm good, she's good. And of course, we do more than that. But I'm just giving you an extreme example of no matter how busy things can get, if I just protect that piece, we can get through a tough stretch of busyness.
Okay.
And I want to say too, what are you doing to take care of yourself? It's very important, because as entrepreneurs and moms or family, we're taking care of everybody else but ourselves. And we come last. It's when we start to have health issues and we get burned out because we aren't doing anything for ourselves at all to fill up our tank. Like me, I like to be outdoors, maybe just going on a 5-minute walk around the neighborhood. Doesn't necessarily have to be something big, but just maybe get up an extra 10 minutes and do something that you love before all the kids do. I mean, I know it's tough, but we all need some me time.
Yeah, we have to schedule on a true Saturday, or at least one day when you're not doing errands or you're not thinking about business at all. You have to have one day to just recover and re-energize.
Yes.
Because when you talk about burnout, it's because we just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so afraid to stop because we think like the business is going to burn down if we're not involved. And if that's the case, then you've got a serious problem in the business. It's probably you, because if you are the thing that's holding everything together, and if you're not there, it's going to fall apart, then you do have a major issue. But it's not about getting more sales. It's really about your internal issues you got to fix. So taking that time away also not just re-energizes you to prevent burnout, so you can be a better performer, but you have better mental clarity as well. And there's better emotional regulation, because when you're just going, eventually it's going to catch up, both mentally, emotionally, physically, and even spiritually. So those things, you just have to do it. Otherwise, it will catch up. And we have clients in their 30s and they just skim burnout. We're in there saying, hey, you got to scale back, right?
I feel like burnout is the comfort level. And so anything other than that is like, I don't know what to do.
It's almost like for some, it's almost like they achieved something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm burned out, that means I did something really good in business.
I'm working really hard.
And that means there's no innovation and creativity. When you're so burnt out, you're just trying to get through that moment that you're not able to think further down the road about what your vision is and what you want your business or your family to look like, because you're just trying to get by.
Yeah. I feel like it robs you of that bird's eye view, because again, you're so focused on the task right ahead of you instead of, is this really helping propel my business forward? Or is this really training my team or my partner in this case? Are we really able to step back? Because many people, when they want to start a business, a lot of it is time freedom. Money freedom is always a close second, if not first, but time freedom to be able to say, I want to go on a cruise and not worry about life for a whole week or whatever the case may be, or take off the entire month of December. But if you're constantly burnt out and not getting ahead, you're never going to take that month-long vacation. You're actually going to work more than 40 hours a week. My laptop for the first, and sometimes even now, depending on what life is throwing at me, is essentially an extension of my arm. Where I go, my laptop goes. And I do have phases of burnout, but like you were saying, like a morning routine, what I have learned for me is I do need to move, because I will sit in this chair and not move all day. And it's really bad. So my husband bought me an Apple Watch that tells me to stand up after a certain amount of time. it's time to stand. And I haven't gotten it yet. So I've done really good today. But also, after I drop my kids off at school, I go and walk around a local park outside. So I get fresh air because I'm not inside. I'm usually listening to a podcast or filtering out my inbox. I'm doing something while I'm getting my body moving. And a lot of my great ideas for my own business as well as the podcast come from those walks where I'm just not solely focused on everything. I'm just like, oh, where do we want to go? This is the last conversation I had with Sarah. How can we achieve this? It gives my brain like the space to do that. And then usually I'm breathlessly trying to communicate that to her via Slack in a voice message where I'm out of breath while walking, but I'm so excited. I need to share it with her. That's our partnership. It's fine. So once we like get through that process of trying to like find time to take care of ourselves individually, how do you recommend openly and honestly communicating that with your spouse? Because your needs are not going to be the same as hers and vice versa. So like, how do you make sure both cups are being filled, but in like an open, honest way?
There's a 4-quadrant thing we use. It's just a piece of paper, just put a big cross in the middle. So you have 4 quadrants. And on the upper left, we say self. And on the top right, it's relationship. And the bottom left is business. And the bottom right is wealth. And we talk about what are elements in those things that will make us good in those areas. So self. What are the things I need to do to take care of myself that makes me healthier? And also just a better husband and a better business owner. Because when we're healthy, when the individual's better, you're actually better with other people, right? You're more pleasant to be around.
Your husband's happy, your kids are happy, your employees are happy because, you're in a good place.
Right? So when you frame it that way with your spouse, it's like, look, do you want me to be pleasant to be around? The even increased intimacy, all that stuff. So when the individual's better, then they're just a better person. And then we talk about the relationships. What are some of the things, what are the must-haves we need to do to keep a healthy relationship? And then the business aspect, how do we become more efficient, more productive so we can grow? And on the wealth side, what do we want to continually to invest in so that our money can grow without the work? Because I think that's where people are working, but a lot of times they're not creating wealth because they're not investing it. You're just hoping the business is going to produce enough that it'll take care of them. But when you're investing, whether it's real estate or the market or whatever, something that will appreciate, you just let it park, you just invest continuously and let it grow. Then over time, that thing, you're going to build the wealth that you want. So that security blanket, that safety blanket, but it's money that's working for you and you don't want the work. So the only thing we're working at is really the business. So that's how we started the conversation and talking about what do I need for myself so I can be a better husband? And then same for her, what can I do for myself so a better spouse? Because I'm assuming you want your spouse to be a better person, like just to you. Just take it from selfish, just for a selfish reason, you want your husband to be better to you, right? So which means
Yes.
I want to make sure he's taken care of, right? So he's happier.
Well, and you want your spouse to be in great health, right? Because how many entrepreneurs have we seen that are in terrible health?
Oh my God. I was looking at the statistics the other day. I cannot quote them, but I was reading an article and I was like, that is awful. It was like the number of steps, I think, that the average person takes is like 3,500. But we always hear 10,000 steps. That's just why my husband got me my watch to make sure I stand up. But just adding a few more steps in your day or taking that intentional time is a weird example that I'm using, but can reduce your risk of disease and bad health problems just by doubling it from 3,500 to 7,000 is a big difference.
And it affects your performance in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We think of the self-help thing as woo-woo, almost selfish kind of thing, but it's like, when you're healthier, you're actually a better business person. Because if you're aches and pains or you can't think clearly because of some other disease or whatever, you're just not as effective a business person.
With that thought process and going through, like, disagreements happen among everyone. The conflict is just completely unavoidable sometimes. We do our best to like maintain a positive working relationship, but sometimes there's blurred lines. So how can couples avoid letting personal disagreements interfere with business decisions? Because you did talk about making business decisions. So how can you not necessarily draw a line, but like take, I guess, the emotion out of the disagreement so that you can make a business decision for the better?
All this stuff is in our book, Tandem, but we have what we call the rules of engagement. So in a disagreement, what is allowed, what's in bounds, and what's out of bounds. So what's not allowed in when you have these conversations, because you don't want to take it personal. Once it becomes personal, it becomes emotional. Once it becomes emotional, now you're not talking about the issue. It's really about attacking feelings. You're addressing feelings. So the things that are out of bounds in our lists are things that would negatively trigger the other person. So we all know how to trigger our spouse.
We know the buttons, okay? And boy, do your kids know the buttons.
Exactly. So for me, I got to be careful about having sarcastic comments and little jabs.
Because I grew up in a family that was very sarcastic, and they would say, "Oh, just kidding," but they really weren't kidding.
Yes.
So it would really hurt my heart. You know what I mean? It was it feels like it's wounding you.
We're on the same page there. I don't do sarcasm well at all.
Yeah. So she says, leave the sarcasm for the guys.
Yeah. The guys love that stuff. I'm like, go get sarcasm if you want with them.
So that's an example. And also if one of it gets kind of heated and to cool off, take a walk or something like that.
Then we'll say, from my childhood, people would get upset and we didn't do well with conflict. We would walk out the door on each other. We'd get in the car, storm off, or hang up the phone. So I was afraid when we got married, I'm like, if he gets mad and he walks out the door, is he going to come back? And that would create a lot of anxiety and fear in me. So for each couple, it's different, the rules of engagement. So ours is, if we get into a heated discussion and we don't feel like we're able to move through it, we'll just say, you know what? I need a timeout right now. I love you, but I need to go for a walk and I'll be back at such and such time. And we honor that. And then we try and get back together and regroup and either talk about it then or schedule for another time to talk about it. But I know he's coming back.
Yeah, and you got to set the time and place you're going to actually pick up the conversation again, because too many times we say we'll talk about it later, and later never happens, kind of hoping it just gets swept under the rug. So we got to address these issues. So if you do need a timeout, then fine, but we need to be specific about when we're going to pick up the conversation, because you don't want to keep those things festering.
You want to honor that.
So that's an example of out of bounds. And then inbounds is asking clarifying questions, because too many times we assume and we just run with it.
I've been known for that. I thought I heard something, but I didn't hear it the way he said it. And then I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? And I could have got into and I have got into a whole heated debate about it.
Yeah, because you find out later, it's like, that's not what I said, or that's not what I meant.
It's just what I heard.
And so ask clarifying questions before you jump in. And then if you're going to address something that can be potentially hurtful to the other person, then preface it ahead of time. So I know Kay Lee says something to me.
I'll say guard your heart. So that way I don't catch him off guard.
I like that.
Oh, thank you. I don't catch him off guard and then he's not reacting, or I'm not reacting, or find out it's not a great time right now. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. Because how many times have I walked in and it's not a good time? And
a lot.
I don't get the response I want. I get a reaction. So it's better to find out, is this a good time?
Yeah. So that helps me get prepared. I literally close my eyes and I do the kumbaya. Just settle myself.
Take a pause.
Yeah. I said, don't react. Okay. And so now I get in the position of just listening and not reacting. Because otherwise, if she does run in and just blurt something out at me, I'll probably
really
react.
upset with you.
I'll probably react. Yeah. So it just really sets the stage of creating a safe space to talk, and also to frame, hey, don't react. Let's listen. Let's talk through this. But sometimes we still get into what we call the cycle of insanity, where we do get in an argument and it goes round and round and round. We're saying the same things, expecting a different result. So that's why it's a cycle of insanity. So if you find yourself in that position, and we still do this every once in a while, that just have to pause and ask your spouse, what do you need from me? So that's either...
You can do this with your kids too.
I need you to listen or empathize, or I need a solution. Those are the two things we really need when we bring up an issue, right? Either listen, empathize, or solution.
I think I saw a TikTok on it, honestly, of something very similar. When my husband is upset about something, he's like a big blue collar man. And so when he's frustrated, it's very intimidating. And I can always tell, are you mad at me? Or what's happening? What did I do? So I have gotten into that. I'm a solution. You come to me and we're going to brainstorm some solutions to fix your problem. Whether I'm doing it, you're doing it, something. And so I had to get into the habit of asking him that question is, do you need a solution or you just want me to listen? What do you need me to do right now? Am I tagging in? That has helped a lot of our arguments. It allows him that psychologically safe space to just vent and not feel, I guess, shame or someone else is frustrated that he has feelings. And then I'm not essentially overstepping by trying to fix it because that's not what he needs. He just needs someone to like be a sounding board. And I know to just be quiet, which is not always the easiest for me. I talk a lot. It's also how I process things.
Well, what you can do too, instead of just being silent, what we say is talk through it with them. You're not being solution mode, but you're just talking along with them. And a lot of times they'll come up with a solution. You're basically like a coach at that point. Coaches don't provide solutions. They talk you through, so you help you get your solution, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Because sometimes that can be awkward, just being silent and just listening.
I'm not like completely silent.
Okay.
I'm just not like, oh, well, did you think about it this way? Or maybe they meant it that way. Nothing will make him more upset than I'm like changing their point of view. So I'm just like, well, what would you like to do about that? How can we move forward? Like, I don't just sit there completely silent. I'm just not offering alternative points of view like a mediator does.
That's good. That clarifying question right there of what do you need from me, it helps a lot. So now I know what lane to go into.
I love that. So I would love to know how you two have leveraged your strengths and complementary skills in your own business to elevate it, enhance it, and to get it to where it is, but also how you plan on using it to grow in the future.
So I remember asking Robert, I'm like, honey, what do you need help with? And he knows me too well, my marketing husband. He says, go make friends. I go, what do you mean? He's like, go make friends. I'm like, no, I need a real job, something to do. And he goes, no, go make friends. I go, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not a thing.
Doesn't sound important.
Yeah, it's not very important. It's like, who wants to do that? And then he's like, honey, wherever we go, you make friends. He laughs at me. He's like, we're at Starbucks and Robert says he just wants to get in and out and get his coffee. And me, I'm talking to the person behind me and just made friends with them. And they invited us over for dinner. And on the way out, Robert's like, do you know them? I'm like, no. But they invited us over for dinner.
Oh my gosh.
So he's like, see, that's making friends. I'm like, but anybody can do that. Because he knows I don't want to be called the salesperson. So he tells me, go make friends.
I love that you're able to do that. See, I'm an in and out. I'm usually, wrangling children. So if you're there, and full embarrassing transparency, we went on a date night and the lady, I knew her face. I had no idea what her name was. And it ended up being, I have introduced myself to her at least 6 times. And I was like, that's me. I look awful. I'll know your whole life story and I still won't know your name. Whereas my husband doesn't know a stranger. Everywhere we go, he knows at least one person. Doesn't matter where we are. He'll find someone that he knows. I'm like, some of my adult friends now are because he introduced us. It's fine.
He'll be
It's
sending
fine.
clients, a whole bunch of clients your way.
He has. He's talked to people. He sent me a few referrals. It works.
Oh,
Yeah, so you should hire him more.
I'm going to insource to my husband.
Exactly.
yeah.
And so that's what I had Kay Lee do, was just go make friends, especially when we're networking, whatever, and then, or call or emails, and I'll just do the outreach, right? Just the sales piece of it. I create the processes that sometimes she sticks with. she's the,
And sometimes
she's
I
the
don't.
creative. And so she'd do this. She'd like, I need a system, whatever. And I said,
Because he's Mr.
But
System.
will you use it?
She's going to fine tune it.
Because I'm not going to create something if you're not going to use it. So anyways, I'm the visionary and the process person. And then, of course, for our consulting coaching stuff, I create the programs and curriculum and stuff.
Yeah, you do all the pricing and the marketing
And then-
and all the marketing strategy and all that stuff.
Yeah. And whatever else just gets outsourced. So we have our marketing team, videos, and the podcast producers and that kind of stuff. And then admin.
Love that. So, last and final question. For those that are listening, anyone that is toying with the idea of launching a business with their partner or insourcing to their partner, what is the first thing that they should do?
Go to Married Entrepreneurs /Encounter. Pick up a copy of the book 10 on the Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance, because it has everything and more, not just the relational stuff we talked about, but also the business stuff.
Some freebies
You know.
and some assessments.
Yeah, there's also a free download, Better Balance Your Marriage and Business.
We have podcasts Thriving in Tandem.
And so, that's a good place to start. Has got everything, even the business side, like we talked about. One of the Achilles heels when we talk about work-life balance or imbalance, because we're spending a lot of time in our business. And when we don't know what else to do, we just put more time in. So we talk about, first thing is we didn't really get into boundaries, but there's boundaries between work and home, but there's also boundaries just in business. Like one of them for me or for us is time. How much time do we spend in business? When we don't put a boundary around it, we're just going to fill it up. And that's where the problem starts, is we don't create a boundary of time. So if I'm saying 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, then what happens is I have to force myself to figure out how do I get these things done within that time period. It also forces me to figure out, is this something I should do right now? Or is it for later? Or do we do it at all? Is this really worth my time? Or is it wasting my time? Is this opportunity a true opportunity, or is it a distraction from really moving forward with the core part of our business? So it forces you to ask these questions, because when I was in corporate and I was doing my consulting business on the side, I had to work at nights basically because I had my full-time job. So I was working till like 2 a.m. By weekend, I was dead. So I said, okay, what if I made a goal of getting to bed by 11? So that's an extra 3 hours a day, which is 15,
a lot.
which is 2 days of sleep, basically. And so it forced me to figure out, what do I do? What do I not do? What are things I just have to postpone? Is this a now thing or a later thing? And so asking all these questions will help you whittle down the tasks that you're doing on day to day. And then, of course, what we said earlier about what are the 2 to 3 activities that I'm excellent at gives me life. And Gay Hendricks talks about as your zone of genius. All those things will help you be able to be more productive in the time you have to get more done in a shorter period of time. And we have a acronym ADE, automate, delegate, eliminate. So of the things that are not in your sweet spot, your zone of genius, what can you automate? What can you delegate? And what can you eliminate? So we got so many automation tools out there now. It's crazy. And of course, delegation is obvious. And then eliminate is, what do you say no to now or forever?
Okay. I like that. I want to use that in the podcast.
You can do that with your personal life too. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have more time with my family. Okay, what things do you need to say no to? A lot of times we're volunteering. We're doing all these things because, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. And I feel bad and yada, yada, yada. Well, it's taking time away from your family. Doing all these things thinking, I feel needed. It makes me feel good.
Yeah. I feel like that can be, as a parent, whether you're a single parent or a duo partnership with like personal life, like what can you automate? Can you have your groceries delivered? Can you delegate some of the household chores? I was just reading in a book, 6 Figures in 6 Hours is the name of it. And she had to come to terms with, she delegated some household chores as her son got older and was able to do them. She's like, but I had to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't going to be exactly like she wanted it, but it was done. So what chores can you delegate, or what's not really important eliminating? I don't know. I'd have to really sit and mull on that one.
That's a hard one because it's hard to say no. And I'm a yes man. And I had to really come to that term of I shouldn't be saying yes to everything, because when I say yes to one thing, I'm saying no to something else. And inevitably it was time with her, because the things I'm saying yes to are outside the home. And so, which means that I'm saying no to her. So you have to really think about that as if your priority is your marriage, your family. So how many times are you saying yes to that versus yes to other things? Because we only have 24 hours a day.
And is it running you rugged? Are you a crazy woman or a crazy guy running around trying to get all these things done because you haven't given yourself enough time to do all this stuff? And then nobody wants to be around you.
Well, that, and then you blink. And I joke with my husband, I was like, we have no social proof that we're actually married because we don't have any pictures. We're never around each other long enough, looking cute on a date night to take a picture. Normally it was our pajamas lounging on the couch. It's I just want to take a picture like that. So we've had to be very intentional with our time, or me. I have to eliminate things so that we have the capacity to use our 24 hours to go on a date night at least once a month. Not we blinked and it'll be 5 months. And we're we've had no quality time. No wonder we're arguing or we're getting on each other's nerves, because we haven't been able to just sit and be with each other, which is important.
Because I always say we all have an emotional tank and we're going to fill it up.
Yes.
And emotions don't have to be good. And so if we don't have enough good stuff in the tank, we're going to backfill it with negative stuff. So hence you talked about the arguments. They're more frequent, they're more intense. So the more and more we go along with life and not fill that tank with good stuff, it's going to get filled up with the negative stuff. And so, yes, the date nights, those times, and date nights don't have to be that elaborate, don't have to be that long. If you just get on a routine weekly to at least go out for coffee or go for a walk or something, and then you have the longer times once a month or whatever, start building up, create a new habit of having to those times together.
Yeah, my girlfriends, they would put the kids to bed early, and then she'd feed them, and then they would eat dinner afterwards together, just the two of them.
I love it. So,
but you have to be intentional about that. It's not going to just happen on its own.
If I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. And we were really good about writing it on the calendar. Oh, this is date night. And then honestly, I think I just forgot to write it down and it just never wrote itself back.
You didn't have AI. You just have to have ChatGPT do it for you. Just schedule it. So chat, you know my schedule. Make sure you put date night in there.
Reoccurring every Friday night.
We had our first date night this past Tuesday. It was Harry Potter trivia. And I was like, when was the last time we went out? And it's been a while. It's probably been several months. So it's back on the calendar now. In addition to your book, for those that are listening, how can they connect with you outside of the podcast? What's the best places?
I think start with the website, entrepreneur.co/encounter. I think once you're there, you have access to everything, even schedule a discovery call. You can talk to us live if you want to, and you'll be able to take the assessment, the disc. And then that'll get you to our podcast and everything else. And you can email us. I mean, everything's right there on the website. So I think that's the best place to start.
Perfect. Well, listeners, as always, this will be in the show notes. And Robert and Kay, it was so fun having you on. I feel like I took a lot just for like I said, my husband, but like connecting with Sarah as like that type of partnership. I can't wait to tell her all about it. So hopefully we can have you on again when things neutralize. And maybe we could talk about other things.
Yeah.
And
talk about the business stuff. Yeah.
Until next time.
Thank
All right,
you,
Dana. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Remember, soft skills aren't just some fluffy buzzwords that get thrown around in the corporate world. They're the key to unlocking your full potential as a professional and a human being. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself and seek out opportunities to improve your soft skills. Sarah and I have a variety of workshops, online courses, and complimentary clarity calls for you to practice in real time with us. Links are always in the show notes. And be sure to join us next time for more insights, tips, and tricks to help you succeed in your entrepreneur encounter.